Okay, bye guys. We're going to do a little side-by-side comparison with the Talaria Sting and the Surron, the Light Bee X. Okay, so in this comparison that we're going to do here, I'm not going to get into a bunch of the technical detail and stuff like that. We're going to just do a quick walk around and look at some of the components, some of the things that are different. Now, both of these bikes have a very similar fork on them, and we haven't tested them enough to know if there's a whole lot of difference between the two, but they have a very similar fork. They also have a very similar front wheel setup. It appears to be the same type of a rim. They have a little bit different hub, and they both have the same type of front brake. So both of the bikes appears to be the same exact light on them. I couldn't see any difference. The controls on the handlebars appear to be very similar as well. They're both hydraulic front brake, hydraulic rear brake, and standard throttle here. So in the front here, there are adjustments for preload and for compression dampening and that. They're both very similar on both bikes. They both have a electronic, let me turn this on. Well, you can do that. What do you want to do, the key?
Well, I'll need to shoot both, so let's just
go ahead.
Key and then I'll do the other one.
Are you going?
Uh-huh.
Okay, up here is the electronic reader board. It doesn't give you a whole lot of information. It has miles per hour, kilometers per hour, mileage driven, and that sort of thing. Right here is the performance switch, and the EP is the low power one, which is good. So if you're trying to save the battery or you have a long way to go or something, you can put it on that. And then if you want a little more power, you switch it up to sport. On this one here, on this Surron, this is a little horn button. It's got a very loud horn, which is always appreciated if you're riding in, around cars or something like that. Then down here on the top of the battery, it gives you the power, how much power is left in the battery. You can just look down and see it. The Surron also has this handy dandy little USB port. So if you want to plug in a phone or a GPS or something like that, it'd be pretty handy. What I've seen some guys do is mount a phone bracket up here, and then they can check their mileage or where they're going or whatever. They can have some information from that. And then if you needed to plug it in, it's right there. And you want to come around? I'll just get out of the way here. On the Talaria, you can't see the battery on the top of the battery, but it has a little more information and some other adjustments on the little electronic control. There's some ways to do change the regen on there, which is the motor braking, which also regens the battery. Like if you were coming down a long hill or something like that, you can switch it to regen and it'll help you charge the battery. It also has a horn button in the same place. It's got a few more little features in it for you guys that like diddling around with electronic stuff. That'd be fun. Here's a start button on this one. It has a little bit of a different starting procedure. You turn the key on, you press the start button, and then the bike will go. It's a kind of a safety thing, so it doesn't just jump out from underneath you if you just grab the handlebar. So on the Talaria, they have a keyed unlock deal that exposes the battery here. And it's a very similar battery as in the Surron. They have a different type of a connection system here. There's a breaker down here. I I'm not exactly sure what the breaker thing is all about, but it's there. And then on the side of the battery is the port in which you do the charging with. But it's got a little hood system on it like this. And it protects your battery. Oh, well, I'll show you on the Surron because it's very similar. Now on the Surron, it has the same kind of a little release for the hood on it. And they have a different wiring setup. It's got 2 plugs instead of 1. It has a very similar breaker. It also has a port over here for charging the battery. Now the nice thing on both of these bikes is you can just unplug these 2 plugs and you can lift the battery, pull it right out of the bike if you want to charge it inside the house, or if that's where you keep your charger or something like that. You can just take the battery right out of it. Or if you had 2 batteries, you can swap them out very easily. It's that hard. You just unplug, lift them out. Okay, so I think those are handy little items. Okay, the Surron and the Talaria have a different design on their rear shock. The rear shock on the Surron sets up a little higher, and it's got a the leverage bars are up here, and the linkage is down here. And if you turn and look at the Talaria, it's got a different design. Now its linkage bars are underneath, and it's got a similar kind of a rocker arm type linkage on it, but it's just mounted a little bit differently. The shock is a little longer, sits higher. We haven't really noticed a whole lot of difference between them yet, but we haven't had them out on the trail yet because it's been snowing and raining, so we haven't had a chance to get them out side by side. Okay, on the Surron, they use a different type of transfer, the power from the motor here, and it has a belt that runs around onto this wheel there. And then it has a shaft that goes across to the countershaft sprocket, which runs the chain to the rear wheel. And the Talaria has a little different system on it. Their swing arms are a little bit different. They're very similar in their look. Side stand, foot pegs, all that are all very similar on both of the bikes.
Good lighting there.
Okay, so on the Talaria, they have a little gearbox here. So it feeds up into a gearbox and then across the gearbox to the countershaft sprocket. This little gearbox does have a little bit of oil in it, which can be changed or should be changed a couple times a year or something like that. And it's just a gear reduction thing, but it goes, runs the same type of a chain and sprocket and that to the back, to the rear wheel. Okay. On the Talaria, they have a little bit wider rear wheel and a little bit wider swing arm. And that gives you a few more choices on tire size in that. This one comes with a slightly bigger rear tire and the wider wheel, but they're geared the same, I believe. And then on the Surron, just kind of give you the same look here, but the brakes on both of the bikes appear to be very, very similar, if they're not exactly the same. But this one has a slightly narrower wheel, and both of these bikes are running a mountain bike type tire. And some of our riders have been wanting to opt for a smaller motorcycle type tire, which has a stiffer sidewall and less prone to get a flat.
Okay.
This is a Surron's rear tail light. This is just a placeholder for a license plate. Here in the United States, I don't know any place you can license these things for the street. Maybe there is, I just don't know where it is. The Talaria has a little bit different looking tail light. It's a little bit smaller. They don't have the bracket for the the license plate on it. And here's okay, so there's just kind of an overview difference between the Surron and the Talaria. We don't particularly have a preference from one to the other. They're both nice bikes. They both are well built, have nice features on them. They ride nice. They both are got a nice performance package, you know, as far as the motor goes, and that makes good power, good battery, and all of that stuff. So I don't have a big preference one over the other. They're just small differences between the two. And I thought you might be interested to see what they look like side by side. So we'll talk to you soon. Bye guys, out.